So here we go. We've talked through why to look at Napa, the pieces that are involved, the setup, the design, the building, and all like that. Now we get to the fun part. Let's actually go through a quick demo and create a small application using Napa. So let's move over to our web browser. And what I'll start with is we've got basically the page that you go to by going to dev.office.com. It's sign up for an Office 365 developer site. So you need to go here and take a look at what you at a site so you can get working on it. You can see that it's got all the information, how to start with the site, SharePoint pre-configured for apps, sign up for your Office 365 developer site. You've got your try it for free 30-day trial. But again, if you've got an MSDN subscription, you actually have an account, a year subscription included in your MSDN. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Or if you've got an E1 or E3 Office 365 account, you've already got that as well. So you got all the information. You come in, you set it up, you set up your account there. It'll drop you through this will walk you through the entire process of getting signed up, of building your account, of getting it all in place, of all those kind of different things. So once you know where to go, you can actually come through and take a look at it. As you can see over here, I've already got my account set up. It's on SharePoint.com, which is where you'll be. I've got my nice little URL up there. Since I'm not going to be using this as a public site, I just have a nice little numeric account up there. But you can see that this is a standard Office 365 account. Come in, I'm at admin at the SharePoint administration site, and what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go through and set up a private site collection, because actually I don't want people looking at all my stuff in process. I'd like for them to see it when it gets done and everything's nice and debugged and ready for the customers to take a look at. So the site will be SharePoint Napa Dev, and I'll put my website address as Napa Dev. Obvious phrases are always very good. I'll select my language as English because, well, that's probably the best language I can work with right now. And we're going to go down, and on collaboration, you can see the template is developer site. This will allow me to actually have everything, the infrastructure and all the features in SharePoint running in the background and already installed. So we'll go ahead and put that in place. I'm not actually in Pacific time, but let's go ahead and leave it there. And administrator, I'm going to put admin, which just so happens to be me. And then I've got 5 gig. I'll go ahead and put a gig on this. I won't need it, but I'll go ahead and put it there, and just to show that we can set things up, I'll give it about half the resources as well. So go through and put the new site collection. Hit it just like you would any other SharePoint site collection. You can see that we are on SharePoint Online, so it takes a little bit of time to get everything done depending on the load on the server. It says being created. It may take up to 15 minutes. So you'll see right here, we're actually doing that. There's our new site collection that we're going into place, and you'll see my nice little green whirly going, and we'll wait for that to get finished and move forward on that. So here you can see that we have our new site provisioned. We've got our nice little green new icon on there. So let's go ahead and click on it and go to our properties. And you can see we've got all the information that we've got there, and we've got our website address. So let's go ahead and go to the new site and take a look and see what we've got. So you can see we now have our new SharePoint Napa Dev site. We've got it. It's from the developer template, so you can actually see that we've got our getting started across, build an app, publish to the site, learn how to use the developer site. We've actually got a link to the samples, which will take you actually over to the Office site. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that. You can actually see that just click there and it's got a direct link over to the Office Dev Center, and you can actually come down and you can see that there are 161 different app for SharePoint examples. So if you want to come in and take a look at various different ways of doing things, it's right there. So you've got lots of information. So let's pop back over to our site, and we've got all of this, but let's make sure that we've got our Napa tools in here. So we're going to go to add an app, And you can see apps we can add right down here is our Napa Office 365 development tools. Now, we can actually go through, and if you don't see it here, you can just search on Napa, and we've got it here. It's already built in. The template gave it to us. If you don't see it here, it may tell you that you need to go to the SharePoint store and pull it down. At that point, it'll give you a suggestion you can drop over there. But we're in good shape, so let's go ahead and put the add it onto the app. You see it working on it, and now as you go through and work with Napa apps or SharePoint apps in general, you'll get the do you trust it? You can actually see that you've got it. It wants full control of the site collection. It wants to be able to move things around as you compile, as you go through testing, access basic information about the user so it knows who it is, so it can assign tasks and all the rest of it. You can view the terms and conditions. You can view the privacy statements, and you've got the language options. It's giving me basically my English. So as you go through and create those apps, think about all of these kind of pieces when you're actually going through to publish them. You'll want to make sure that you've thought of all of these different, what you need access to and all the rest of it as you develop your tools. Because, you know, as you, if you want to put it in the SharePoint store, you'll need to have all that documented and need to have it at just what you have to have. So let's go ahead and trust it. And we come through, and now we've got our new tools. It's adding it, and now we've got our new tool in our SharePoint site. You can actually see through the Developer Center, we actually have our apps in testing. We've got our Developer Center as a whole. We've actually got our document library where things go into. We got all these. But the reason why we came here was to actually do a little bit of development. So let's go ahead and bring up our dev environment. And you can see there's already a demo Napa app and a SharePoint app. So let's add us one more. Let's go for my Napa app. You notice I've chosen the app for SharePoint. If you wanted to make a content app for Excel, the web app or the desktop program, tasks panes for Office, or the mail app for Office as well, run an Outlook web app. So you can actually do these kind of apps in not just SharePoint itself, but in the Office web applications. Note that those generally are built into some of the SharePoint infrastructure, so not really a big surprise there, but know that when you're working with Napa, you're not just focused on the traditional web parts, but you actually have a lot of options here. But we're going to stick with the app for SharePoint and go through and do our create. And we've got our standard information. We've got our default ASPX. We've got our client web part that we can go through and take a look at. So you can see as I'm moving through, we're getting the details on what we've got on the information. You can actually see details on editor commands. But what we're going to do is, since we're working on this with our JavaScript, let's drop over here. And we've got our, basically we've got our JavaScript here, just a very simple script that automatically comes into place. We've actually got where we run the DOM, where we actually go through with get the user's information. You can see it automatically just goes and gives me a hello world by default. We want to do a little something more than that, so let's take a look. Let me drop back in, give myself another object, and just leave that for the moment. And let's come down here. Let's let it get the username just like it was going to. And let's actually have it do just a little bit more. One of the things we're doing this for is so you can actually see how we can actually do development. So what I want to do is do the SharePoint.sod. You can see it's actually giving me my IntelliSense as I work through, and my exec function. And I've got file name, function, strings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the SharePoint JavaScript file has actually been loaded. So what I'm going to do is sp.js. This is one of the JavaScript files that SharePoint normally pulls in to make sure it's got all its functionality. And let's take a look and see that the client context, we've got that function that's been run. And once that's been done, and you can see up top that with our context that we can run it that way as well. But we come through here and let's get our run us a new function. So got our new line in there. Let's give it a second to make sure that everything's okay. And what it's doing is it's telling me that, oh, that's great. All the rest of it worked, but just like you'd get IntelliSense in Visual Studio, it's telling me that SharePoint Ready function just doesn't exist yet. So let's go fix that. So what do we want to do? We want to do a new function. And I think we SharePoint Ready. And let's start our building. Note that I'm getting all the nice little pieces that Visual Studio normally gives me. Like when I put the open braces, it gives me closed braces, so I don't forget to do that. And let's go ahead and put some functionality in here. Let's do a get JSON. So we can get our get JSON and go in, and we can click on it if we want to do it that way, if we prefer. And let's do a flicker. Let's see if I can get all this typed in. Without messing it up. So that's my first parameter. So I've got my string. Now I'll need my data. And let's give it I like robots. Any of the tags that have a robot. And this is where I've gotten, yep. Close that out. And what do I want to do with it? Let's get me a let's work with that data. So we'll just put, we want to do some displays here. We've got a set of images. Let's go through each of those items there. And for each of those, let's go ahead and put an image tag on it. Get the source and item.media.m. And drop that into my robot images. And close there. And let me make sure I've got and let's see. And I deleted a close paren up there. And let's see what we got. give it a second, and looks like I have an extra. It helped me out, and I've got an extra, so let me go back and find my open, close, open. And that's what it is. And with my misspelling corrected, we can actually see that we've got a nice little app here. We can go through and do our Explorer, we can do our pieces, but let's do the run project and see if I've actually typed it in correctly. Note that I am unauthorized, so let's go back to my site. And let's go back one more time. And you can see here we're working with the default app. We're going to allow the pop-up to pop up. Always allow. And note the first time you go through, you're going to run into that. Just need to make sure that the pop-ups work. And here we go. So you can see here the default one is Hello Phil Wheat. So let's go back now that we've got that one set up. Let's work with my Napa app. And let's see if I've mistyped something or if we have a problem with it. We still have a deployment. We've got a same version in product ID. Which means that there we go. Through and work with the permissions. Note that we can go through on our Napa app and set the values of what we need. Do we need additional resources? Do we need to work with the site content? Do we need to work with resources outside or inside? We can actually say that we can go through and say full control, manage, right. We've got all of these different permissions we can set without, again, go through and do whatever we need to. Set what we need for the core, for the social. Do we need to read and write? Do we find out all the different information about the users, the profiles, all of that kind of information. So we go through and check our endpoints and apply. Now let's retract our app. And we'll push the new one. And we've still got a deployment error because we've got something going on there. But you can see that the apps themselves work. Everything rolls through. And just because that I've gotten the piece out, I can actually go through and share, create a project, put a public link so people can go out and test it and work with it. I don't have to worry about all of that kind of stuff. I can actually, again, retract it. I can open it in Visual Studio if I wanted to, and if I wanted to go through and do some tests and do some checks there. Maybe I wanted to put everything in very quickly, but I needed to put some more detail behind it, or maybe put some inline C#. I could do that as well. Instead of just JavaScript, I've got all the different options here to go back through and do all of my different pieces. So I can do all my commands. You can see that I've got a very full feature set to be able to go through and show off here inside the browser and put it all in place. So that's the short version of using SharePoint to develop with SharePoint itself with the Napa tool set. And I hope you found it useful. And now we'll move on to the next section.